In this video, I want to speak just briefly about specimens. As you can see by some of my other recent videos, I have red harvester ants, and I'm now keeping them in a gel environment, which keeps them more contained. It is also easier to use magnifiers to see them for the detail. Now, in the view here, you see this is a graphite drawing of a young harvester ant, and this is a sketch that I'm working up to do a larger size drawing. Now, the reason specimens come in here is because I did this by using a magnifier and observing the ants and a little bit of research. It's kind of a conglomeration of what do I think they look like. Now, it's not completely scientifically accurate, but it's a good design. As I started to study them more closely in the gel environment, I started to notice different things. Now, this is just a rough sketch, but you see this area. This would actually be the back. But underneath the back, there is the way the body is shaped is that it goes down narrower on the bottom half. There are wide muscles at the beginning of the leg, and then the back has almost a little bit of a hump or a bump to it. So if you look at this, you can't tell that. And it will be with the graphite and the shading, and if I do it in metal point, it'll be the shading that shows that structure to the body. But this, obviously, harvester ants are all about two things, really. They carry things, they harvest seeds, so they're all about their mouth and what they can carry and their strength, and they're also all about their sting. But for now, I just wanted to do a partial drawing of the harvester ants. Now, specimens come into this because if you raise any kind of an animal to study it, insects specifically, not mammals or anything, but insects, sometimes the best way to study them is when they're dead. It's the same as plants. Well, plants I think are better to study when they're alive, but there are large I forget the name of the museum, it might be the Smithsonian, where they have records of dead plants. I'm trying to think if it's the Linnaeus catalog. I don't want to be wrong, so that's all I remember right now. But it's a catalog of and samples, specimens, of all the different plant names or plants that we know of. And scientists do the same thing with insects. Some scientists, I would imagine, do mammals. But on my scale, what I find is that, obviously I'm new to the ants, but I have kept other specimens through the years. For example, this is a grasshopper. And this one, most of these I found preserved just the way they are out in the yard. In other words, they just dropped dead wherever they were, and I grabbed them. Now, the advantage is, obviously it's dead, so it's not going to move. If you disturb them not very often, they can be more or less intact. And that makes a wonderful way to study the detail of an animal. So there's a grasshopper. This is actually, I think, a queen ant. I found this one the same way. And I think it's a queen pavement ant, or a soon-to-be queen. Ants, every few years, have winged young ants that take off to mate. Then the males die and the females go off and start their own colony as a queen. And I think this is a queen pavement ant, but I'll have to look it up. But if I take that out and put it under the microscope, it'll be much easier for me to identify it as a pavement ant that's a queen. Also, sometimes, most of the times, they retain their color. You saw the grasshopper is green. This is a moth that is called a blue. And it is blue. And again, I just found it somewhere, and it retained its color. So whether you're working in graphite or metal point or color, now this is a really spooky one in a way. This is a bumblebee. It's lost one antenna because it is dried. But if you want to see a bumblebee up close, this is the way to do it. You can see exactly what the wings are like. And again, this guy just dropped dead in my front yard. Amazing face. And the detail on the eyes you can get. It's just wonderful to do it this way. Now, I keep these in what are called watchmaker cases. Watchmakers use these little tins for the tiny little parts. And, for example, this one comes with 12 to a case. And it makes a great way to keep any kind of specimens. So now we'll move to the carpenter ants, the harvester ants, and you know that if you've seen my other videos, I had a tap water problem with one group of ants. And this is where these cases again, and the specimens themselves come in handy. These are all dead. These are the ants that died of tap water poisoning. Most of them are curled up in a ball. Some of them have black abdomens. And as I was watching this happen to them, it was like my worst fears confirmed. They were being poisoned. But I now have them, and I can look at them, I can pull them apart, and I can see if there are any differences between these two, which died naturally. I'll try to get them to stop rolling around here. These are not curled up. And again, they just stopped living wherever they were. This one is a little bit more curled up. But they sleep like this. Ants sleep sitting on their abdomens. They also kind of suspend themselves vertically in tunnels. But I've seen them sitting on their abdomens, and they just kind of fall asleep. But this one is a normal ant, and it's completely different from those that died from the poisoning, the tap water poisoning. But going back to the two drawings, if I take one of these two and put them under the microscope, I'm going to have all the detail I need on not only exactly how the head is shaped, but how the back is shaped. And if you save these so that you have more than one, you can actually then cut them apart. And, for example, in this type of a drawing, I could just use the head and upper back and draw exactly what I see. So, it's worth having these cases. It's worth saving your disappointments in what insects you lose. It's different from working from models. You see a couple of turtle models there. And models are wonderful. And I'm going to do another video on a few models coming up in the next few days, week. But working from a preserved specimen, you know it's the real animal right in front of you. Both of these models are artists' renditions, even if they're very good, of the animal. With a specimen, you have the actual animal right in front of you.